Hey everybody, LeetSpeed here. Welcome to my Talaya Plants deck profile. Now I know you're not seeing it right on the screen at the moment, but I just wanted to take a brief moment to say, thanks to everyone who, left me positive feedback on the deck as I've been playing it. Like in the past couple months, I mean, it's actually gone through quite a lot of changes off screen, and I will actually show you some of those like very briefly before the deck profile, just so that, you can see all the different stuff that I've thinking about using that I either didn't do or I did off camera or something like that, because I want to make sure things work before I show you guys or whatever. So yeah, it's just kind of a weird term of thinking, whatever. And plus people are probably going to be asking me how I got the skin thing and blah 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 blah. So to do that, basically you just go to wherever you install the Dev Pro thing. You open the file and there should be a file called like YGeoPro_versus or something like that. It should say something like YGeoPro versus, and then you open it and then there you go. That's basically how that would work. And then for skins, there are tutorials on how to install skins. This just happens to be a skin that I got. And then the background is a picture I found of Black Rock Shooter, and I know it's kind of random, but I like this character a lot. So anyways, this is the deck. The Talaya Plants deck, probably the most fun deck I've played in a while now. Besides Gusto's when I first played him or whatever, I had a lot of fun with Gusto, and honestly, I share the same amount of fun with this deck too. Just because not only did I make like a very rough build by myself, but I've had some help in like card choices, and then when certain cards came out, it made it even better and easier to work with. So seriously, it's been crazy, and it's been a crazy journey, but we'll quickly go over the deck profile, and then after that, you can leave the video if all you are coming here for is the deck profile or whatever. So yeah, this is gonna be like an analysis kind of thing too. I explain card choices and all that other stuff too. So here we go. Alright, so starting off, we have 2 copies of Talaya Princess of Cherry Blossoms, 1 Tytannial Princess of Camellias, 1 Marina Princess of Sunflowers, 2 copies of Gigaplant, 2 copies of Violet Witch, 1 Lone Fire Blossom, 1 Dandelion, 1 Spore, 1 Hedge Guard, 3 copies of Crane, 2 copies of Junk Forward, 1 Spell Striker, and 1 Effect Veiler. For the spell cards, we have Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Avarice, Foolish Burial, Reinforcement of the Army, Mind Control, 2 copies of Pot of Duality, 3 copies of Forbidden Lands, because you seriously need that, or 3 MSCs, whichever one you prefer. I just like this more at the moment. For the drafts, we have the Solemn Duel and Solemn Judgment and Solemn Warning respectively, 2 copies of Call of the Haunted, 2 copies of Torrential Tribute, 2 copies of Bottomless Chapel, and the Lone Mirror Force. For the extra deck, we have 1 Black Rose Dragon, Formula Synchron, Mistborg Colossalus, Armory Arm, TG Hyper Librarian, Scrap Dragon, Stardust Dragon, and Shooting Star Dragon. For the Xyz, we have Tree Spirit of the Malayas, or Malaya the Ashwood Nymph on Dueling Network, and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia. We run 3 copies of that. 1 number 17 Leviathan Dragon, 1 Mech-Equipped Engineer. Yeah, I know that's kind of weird. You're probably thinking, who's this guy? Well, he's from Number Hunters. And, in before no one gives a crap, but, that's just how it goes. Hieratic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis, and Belgrand the Divine Dragon Knight. We run these 2 just because our Flower Princesses are level 8. So there you go. For people wondering how do you make that for some reason, there you go. Use the Flower Princesses to make it. And rarely you're going to do it, but there's going to be those very awkward situations where you're going to want to make them. So you want to have those options there, because I know I didn't before. But yeah, that's basically the main deck and extra deck for people who just came for the deck profile. And now for the rest of you guys who want like a thorough analysis and stuff like that, you got it. So let's begin with this card. Talaya Princess of Cherry Blossom. She's pretty much the namesake of the deck. The entire purpose of the deck. Like, this wouldn't be Talaya Plants without it. So yeah, mainly because the purpose of this deck is to try and get out 2 copies of these on the field. The 2 copies that I run, 3 is way too many, 1 is terrible, 2 is just right in my opinion if you're going to run Talaya in your deck. 2 is just perfect. Mainly because of her secondary effect, but I'll go over the card really quickly. This card gains 100 attack for each plant type monster you control. other plant type monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects. On paper, that sounds mad because she doesn't protect herself, but that's not entirely true. If you get 2 copies on the field, she will pretty much protect herself. She'll protect the other Thalia, and then the second Thalia will protect the first one. So it's very similar to like Marauding Captain and how he has like a lock too. You know, monsters that have that kind of lock. This one locks destruction from card effects, so that's kind of cool. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this deck. Get 2 of these on the field and just swarm with them and any other monsters like these that you bring out as well. So you basically go Talaya Beatdown, then you bring out your other Flower Princesses, or you have like Giga Plants, or you may go into some of your Xyzs. You just swarm. That's kind of the point of this deck, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I know it's a very weird premise, but that's just how I wanted to build the deck. Even when I made my first ever Ruck build, that's what I wanted to go with. So yeah, very strange, but I honestly love this card a lot. Just throwing it out there. One Tytannial, pretty much one of the other Flower Princesses, and I think she's just really good to have in any kind of plant deck, especially one that can swarm the field with big ass flowers or humanoid flowers and whatnot. So yeah, and you know, she can negate stuff by tributing a plant type monster, you know, any card or effect that targets something. So it could be like, even if they target your back row, you can protect it with her effect. So if it's like a key card like Call the Haunted or something like that, you can protect it. And she's just big too. They're all pretty big. Marina Princess of Sunflowers, the new Flower Princess from Shadow Specters. Now, she's not as good technically as the other 2. However, her effect isn't that bad either. She's basically like, just blow up a card on the opponent's side of the field if any of your plants get destroyed and sent to the graveyard by battle or by a card effect of any kind. So it could be by your card effects, it could be from you ramming a plant type monster into one of their monsters, or them using like, I don't know, freaking, I forget. I was only gonna say Sakuretsu because it destroys one monster. I think the wording is supposed to be if exactly one other plant type monster is destroyed. So if more get destroyed, I don't think the effect works, but that's just me though. But yeah, she's alright, and it's just another Flower Princess I run, and honestly, she's not really that bad. And plus, for this deck, I feel like she's appropriate to have here. 2 copies of Giga Plant, pretty much like another key part of this deck besides Lonefire. Mainly because when you Gemini summon him, you know, with the whole Gemini mechanic or whatever, you could just start cranking out plant type monsters, or insects if you run any. So if you run insects, you can get them out as well. But you're mainly going to be getting plants out on the field. So it also helps you get to your Talaya. Like if you have a dead Talaya in your hand, Giga Plant can get her out of your hand, or if you have one on the field, you can get the second one out from the hand, or you can get back a Lone Fire that you may have tributed earlier, and then use that to get a Talaya from the deck. So it kind of facilitates getting a double Talaya onto the field and then locking out destruction basically. And he's pretty big too. 2400 is not that easy to run over, at least with battle. I mean, you know, card effects exist, guys, but you know, this is how it is. 2 copies of Violet Witch. Now, Violet Witch, okay, now I'm kind of mixed about this card. Like, I use it because I can get Lone Fire Blossom from my deck, because her effect is when she's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, add 1 plant type monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. So actually, you can add quite a few of the targets. You can get Talaya, you can get Giga Plant, you can get Lone Fire, Dandelion, Spore, etc. You can get a lot of the plant type monsters as they have 1500 defense or less. So that's actually why I use her in this deck, because Botanical Girl can only get a plant type monster with 1000 or less defense, so it's not as useful in getting Lone Fire. But I mean, Botanical Girl can get like Lord Poison and stuff like that, so I don't know. I just prefer this. It's a bit harder to use though, just because it has to be by battle, and sometimes it's easy to play around a monster like this. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's worth it to run her for the purpose of getting Lone Fire. So you want to get the Lone Fire basically. And speaking of Lone Fire, we run 1 Lone Fire because it's freaking Lone Fire. Like, if you've ever built plants before, even if it's like purely plants or whatever, or something weird like this, you're gonna want to run Lone Fire in this deck, and it's at 1 for a reason. I've given my thoughts in a previous video why I think it could go to 2, but at the same time I would know the repercussions of it being a 2. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's just really good, and plus, you can abuse the effect multiple times just because it's not a you can only use the effect once per turn. It's just that once per turn when it's face up. So you can tribute it off, then use like Monster Reborn, bring it back, use this effect again, or use Call the Haunted, bring it back, use this effect again. And essentially you can get a double Talaya doing that. So that's basically how you're going to do it. That are using Giga Plant. Dandelion. Dandelion is, well, Dandelion. So, I mean, there's not much I gotta explain about this guy. You get 2 fluff tokens, it's level 3 in Earth and Plant. That's all gonna come into play later, as you may have already known if you looked at certain monsters in this deck. Spore, same thing, it's plant stuff, so, and you can Synchro. I mean, what else is there to say? Hedge Guard. Now, this card is interesting because I was actually running 2 at one time, but I decided to cut it down to 1, mainly because I think I only need to ever run 1 copy in this deck. Well, not 1 copy, just 1 in this deck. Basically, it's kind of like a hand trap that you send it to the graveyard and then you can protect one of your monsters from being destroyed from 1 battle. But the monster's attack gets cut in half into the end phase, so it's kind of risky to use just because if they have multiple monsters, they can pretty much, you know, they can just run it over with other monsters. So keep that in mind. You want to try to use it when they have like 1 monster or something like that, or something like that, if you just want to protect a key monster from being destroyed from a particular battle. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. Plus it's a level 3 plant Earth, and I can also remove it with Spores of Fetch instead of Dandelion. So there's that too. And the next card is why we're running some of these cards. Crane. Now, keep in mind that I'm well aware of Crane Dandelion equals the new Xyz or whatever, and I actually knew about that already, but there are some plays that, you know, people probably aren't really doing anyways, and there are some cards that people don't really run anyways, so, you know, I'll be bringing those to light. But Crane is definitely one of the most key cards in this deck, because he is literally a 1-card Tree Spirit of the Camellias, or just any 1-card Xyz that's rank 3, because he's pretty much a tour guide, except he pulls something out of the grave. And he's Earth, level 3. And your Tree Spirit requires level 3 Earth monsters. 2 of them. And a lot of the targets are Earth level 3. So, yeah, you have quite a few targets, including another Crane that's in the grave already. So, you're going to want to run 3 of this. It may clog, but it's worth it, in my opinion. Plus, with a name like Crane, why would you not? Junk Forward. Now, Junk Forward's interesting mainly because this is a card that he's level 3. He's a warrior, so you can get it off with Reinforcement of the Army, and you can just special summon it if you have no monsters on the field. So he just turns into a level 3 special summon. So I can either go for a rank 3 play if I have something like Dandelion, or if I have Hedge Guard, or if I have this in my hand as well, Spell Striker. I can go for an instant rank 3, and mainly he's there to facilitate the Xyz summon of Malaya Tree Spirit or whatever. So just keep that in mind as well. And plus, you can go special summon a tribute summon Giga Plant if you want to do that or whatever, if you have to do that. So that's another play you can do. Spell Striker. Now, I only run 1 Spell Striker in this deck because the way I see it, if I'm going first, I'm not always going to have a spell in the graveyard for Spell Striker, but I'm definitely not going to have any monsters on the field, so he's more live first turn more often than not. So it just depends on the situation. Plus, both of them can be searched off of Rhoda anyways, so if you don't have any of them, you can just get whichever one you want at the time. In fact, I would recommend getting Junk Forward if you have no monsters, because if you draw Spell Striker later in the game, you will have the Reinforcement of the Army that you use as banish material, basically. So it synergizes the fact that you can special summon both of these at the same time, particularly, and make Tree Spirit. And then you can maybe normal summon Crane, get back like a level 3 monster that you detached, and then make another Tree Spirit, and then bring back the Lone Fire that you probably dumped to the graveyard with the first one. So yeah, there's quite a lot of combos you can do with this deck. And again, it all facilitates the Flower Princesses, but mainly this one. Simply put. And plus he can attack directly. That's kind of cool, right? I don't know. Maybe. And he's level 3 Earth, so just synergy. Effect Veiler. I was actually running like more than 1, but I feel like I'm only going to be using Effect Veiler just to stop a really crucial monster effect. Like a monster effect that could ruin me. And there's not that many that can just get past Talaya that easily. Unless, you know, number 11 Big Eye's a card, but, you know, that's number 11 Big Eye being number 11 Big Eye. He just steals anything. And if you have a Tytannial on the field, that shouldn't really happen, but again, it's a nice insurance policy. Plus it's a tuner, so I can synchro with it and other monsters. But I feel like I'm only ever... I mean, I may run more than one in the future, depending on how the format changes and whatnot. But for now, at this time, I'm only running one. And then Heavy Storm, I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory. Average to put everything back. Foolish Barrel to get your Lone Fire into the graveyard, or get Dandelion into the graveyard. And then just get your combos going. Reinforcement of the army, because you run these 3 monsters. Because, you know, they're easy to special summon. Whether you have no monsters or you just banish a spell, which this is. So, synergy! Mind Control, because it's freaking Mind Control. It works well with, like, Spore. You can tune with one of their monsters. Or you can, like, overlay with one of their monsters, depending on what level they are. Now, I may run a rank 4 just in case I steal a level 4 monster and I have Violet Witch. And make, like, Lavalval Chain, which can pretty much stack Lone Fire to the top of my deck. So I might do that, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, that's why it's in here. Pot of Duality, because you're not always special summoning in this deck. Sometimes you're just wanting to gather your combo pieces so that you can get your combo plays off next turn. And that's pretty much how it works. And honestly, if you have the play, don't use Duality. Just do it, you know what I mean? Or if you have something like Violet Witch that you can just set first turn, if you have Dandelion you can set first turn, just activate Pot of Duality. Get a combo piece to your hand, perhaps? Maybe? It just depends. 3 copies of Forbidden Lance. We use Lance for MST just because we don't really care about certain back row. We care about, you know, chaining Lance to a key back row and just proceeding to go off. Like, especially if you can protect Talaya. Protecting Talaya is actually really important, especially when you start swarming the field with other plant-type monsters later in the game. Your opponent isn't going to be able to use Bottomless, Torrential. Well, they can Torrential, but she's the only one that's going to die. And if you have 2 of these on the field, none of them are going to die. So she's very important, and that's why I run 3 Lance. You can also run 3 MST in place, but I don't like blind MSTing sometimes, especially if they got an infinite back row. Yeah. Anyways, that's pretty much it for that. And then for the drafts, the Solemn Duo, simply put, I mean, they're just really good to have in general. Especially when you're controlling the field with double Talaya, you can just stop key summons or whatever. You can just lock them out for the rest of the game. I mean, it's more fun doing that, I guess, than like Ophion set 5s. Like, I literally sit behind Talaya set 5 than Ophion set 5. Especially since you have the potential to get 2 of these on the field. 2 Call of the Haunted. You're mainly going to be using it to bring back like Lone Fire Blossom. Or you can bring back Gigaplant at the end phase of the opponent's turn. Or if you didn't normal summon on your own turn, then you can normal summon it again and then get his effect. So that's mainly what you use Call of the Haunted for. Or if they're attacking you, you can bring one of your giant Flower Princesses back to block their attack. Because most of the time, they don't have enough attack points. Because they're way too big for this game's own good, apparently. I don't know. I might just be going nuts here. And plus, if they go Valor, your Lone Fire, you can tribute it off, the effect's going to get negated, then you can try again with Call of the Haunted. So, it's just very versatile. The reason I'm not running 3 is just because it's not as good if you don't have something like Lone Fire Blossom. So, yeah. Just saying that right now. 2 Torrential Tribute. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, it kind of works. Like, if you have double Talaya, Torrential's pretty much like a Dark Hole. Not Dark Hole. It's pretty much like a Raigeki on summon. So, it wipes out all their monsters, but all your plants are safe. And if you have something like Dandelion, you get 2 Fluff tokens and stuff like that. So, it does have a few ways to... You can kind of combo with it, but it's just to wipe out their board just so that they don't overwhelm me while I'm trying to overwhelm them with my giant plant monsters. You know what I mean? Maybe you do. 2 Bottomless Trap Holes, just a very good card in general. And then Mirror Forest, because, you know, I think it's just a nice surprise one-off, because, you know, people probably won't expect a Mirror Forest, especially when you're just swarming the field with giant plant monsters, and then they actually get something bigger, and then they attack, or they get like a DD Warrior Lady, which is actually a really annoying problem. You can just Mirror Force it. So, yeah, that's a thing. With the extra deck, I mean, there's not much to explain on some of these, but some of these I will explain. Like Black Rose, it's Black Rose. Formula, it's Formula. I mean, it's pretty much like Plants Synchro, I guess. So you can go for the Shooting Star Dragon play, you know, if you have Stardust and Formula Synchron. And, you know, I'll quickly go over the combo later on after I go through the extra deck and whatnot. But yeah, you can actually go for Shooting Star Dragon pretty easily in this deck. You just need like certain cards or whatever, and there are a few ways to get to them. Mr. Colossus, I recently added him on my Dueling Network deck. I actually had him on here for a bit of time, but I actually forgot to put him and Neckwept Engineer in the DN deck. So that's why I didn't have them until the last video. So yeah, that's how I had to explain that. And plus, he just has a really good effect, and plus you can make him really easily with Fluff Tokens and Spore. If you have two of them and a Spore, you can make this really easily. Or if you have Formula Synchron and a Fluff Token, you can make this. So you can pretty much draw a card and then sync into this guy and then negate an effect. And he's level 3, so if I have another level 3 on the field, I can Exceed Summon with it if I want to, and then run over whatever monster he cut down to 0. So that's kind of cool. Plus he kills Ophion. Yay! Ophion haters go. I don't know. I don't know. I think the Ophion hate is a bit over-exaggerated a little bit. I mean, yeah, it locks out synchros, but that's my fault for letting that happen, and it's my fault that this deck is Talaya.deck, basically. So it just locks that out, but that's whatever. We have this. Maybe it'll go through. Maybe it will not. It just depends on the game state and everything. So, yeah. Army Arm, self-explanatory. 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 Then with Exceeds, this is probably the most important Exceeds in the deck besides this, Neckwept Engineer. Well, he's important in his own unique way. But with this card, you can pretty much detach a material and then you can set Foolish Burial Plant, or you can like Monster Reborn a plant and face up defense. Both are really good effects. And if, let's say you're using the first effect to send a plant type monster to the graveyard, you can send either Dandelion, which you can like use Crane to bring back, or you can send something like Lonefire Blossom, which you can use Monster Reborn or Call the Haunted if you had it set on a previous turn, and then use its effect and then start getting monsters onto the field. Especially if you didn't normal summon it. Like if you didn't do a normal summon, like if you special summon Junk Forward and Spell Striker with their effects, then you can still use your normal summon. So you can summon something like Crane, get back a Dandelion, and then just make another one of these. And if you could protect both of them, if you can protect them with like the couple traps that you run, or your Forbidden Lances, you're pretty much gonna have a massive field next turn, and you could already have a massive field already even without this card. But she's just another way to get back Lonefire, or get Lonefire in the graveyard so I could get it back, because the problem with the deck in general is that since the deck's mainly gonna want to get 2 Talayas on the field, it's gonna be heavily reliant on Lonefire Blossom. I mean, Lonefire is he's just so damn good that like it's kind of like you have to like if Lonefire gets banned ever, like I think plants are just dead in general. Like I mean it. It'd be really awkward to play plants without Lonefire Blossom, just because it added so much consistency even at, and it added a lot of power even at 1, because you can abuse it multiple times. So yeah, she's pretty important. And you know, I mean, I made builds before this card ever came out. So yeah, that goes to show I've been dedicated to this deck for quite a while. Leviathan Dragon, just because he's a beater. Neckwept Engineer. This is the guy that people were like, who is this guy? Yeah, he's from Number Hunters, and I'm pretty sure you may have seen him, but you were probably like, man, he's not that great. And you know what? You're right. He's not that great. However, in this deck, he's amazing. And I'll explain why that is. So his effect, he is Exceeds Fairy Light monster. 1800 attack, 1000 defense, takes 2 level 3 monsters, so it's generic. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card, then target 1 face-up attack position monster you control. Change it to face-up defense position, and if you do, it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects this turn. So, simply put, that sounds pretty decent. But you're thinking, well, why not use Zen Mains if you just want to prevent being destroyed? Well, for one, he protects himself. If he wants to protect himself, he can protect himself for a whole turn. Except from like cards like Compulsory Evacuation Device, and that's my worst enemy, Compulsory Evac Device, because that's the one card that could deal with. That's like one of the few cards that could deal with double Talaya as soon as I get them on the field. So it sucks, but oh well. Keeps the game in check. Even if people really hate Compulse, or actually people love Compulse, some people hate it, but you know, Compulse is just that good. And apparently Xyz Encore is supposed to be the new Compulse, but I don't know. I don't see it happening right now. At least not now. Maybe later, but that remains to be seen, to be completely honest with you. Especially when we're in the era of synchros, technically, maybe. But with this guy, you're mainly going to be using his effect to protect your other monsters. For example, if you have something like Tree Spirit on the field, you make this guy, if you use something like Crane, bring back a monster, make this guy, you can protect Tree Spirit. And if you do that, you could basically, you know, protect your Tree Spirit from being destroyed, and then next turn you can get your combos off. So I don't know, it's kind of weird telling you guys that over a microphone, but this is how it works. I just say whatever's on my head at the time, and I just come with some very strange ideas for this kind of deck. And he can protect himself if he's like the only thing on the field and whatnot, so it's okay, but you're going to be using him as a utility kind of monster card, so you're not going to be just making him to attack stuff. You're going to be using it to protect monster cards, whether it's like your key Xyz monsters or something like Lone Fire Blossom. If they effect Veilered it or something like that, you could protect it for a turn and then use the effect next turn, unless you try to use effect Veiler again. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, but this is how it goes. He's more utility kind of card. So yeah, it makes sense that, you know, I don't think I've ever seen this guy in anybody's deck profile ever. There might be someone who did, but they're probably running the Chaos Xyz version of it or something like that. They're not using it by itself without its Chaos Xyz form. So yeah, then these two, I don't think I need to explain too much about them. I mean, use this to blow stuff up, especially if there are problematic cards I need to get rid of that double Talaya cannot get past. And this guy, he's pretty good because he's pretty much like a Forbidden Lance and an effect Veiler at the same time, or he's kind of like Breakthrough Skill or something like that, because he can negate any monster effect on the field, but it's going to make it unaffected by other card effects. So he can target himself to make him immune to other card effects, or he can target an opponent's monster and negate its effects, and it's unaffected by other card effects. And actually, one of my good buddies, SS Jason, he actually did something pretty cool in one of his videos. He had a deck with, it was like Chaos rank 8, where he uses a bunch of level 8s, and you know, they're all Chaos related, so you can summon stuff like BLS. But he was playing against Bujin, and he had this guy on the field, and then the opponent had Yamato or some level 4 monster, and the opponent had Honest in hand. Basically, the opponent attacked Velgrand, and Jason activated the effect of Velgrand targeting the attacking monster, and then when they try to go Honest, it wouldn't work because it kept the targeted monster from being affected by other card effects. So that's another way you can use this card. You can, if you're expecting them to have like a hand trap like Honest or something like that, or Bujingi Crane if you're playing against Bujin, just negate their effects and then make them unaffected by other card effects, so they will not be affected by Crane or Honest. So that's another way to use this card, and it's just good to have in general, so that's why I'm running it here. So yeah, kind of a long-winded deck profile, but simply put, it's been a lot of fun, and honestly I want to explain all the card choices I've had, and that I've made a lot of changes over the past couple of months. And actually, believe it or not, there were a lot of things that I tried out before, and I guess I could show you those really quickly before we end the video off. So this is like the very first rough build of the deck, Talaya Plants, well, back when she was called Thalia and whatnot. But yeah, this was the very first build I've ever made. It was kind of weird, but I don't know, at the time I was trying to figure out how to make this work and stuff like that. Version 2, I was running stuff like Mystic Tomatoes in this deck. And then here I was running like Naturia Cherries, and I think I added another, no I did not. I think I added like, yeah, I took out the creature swaps, and then I ran like some other random crap. I don't know, I'm not really paying attention to what I took out, but there was just like a lot of things I switched out. And then this one I was using Supervise with Hidden Armory with Gigaplant. I didn't like it just because I never draw into Gigaplant and this at the same time. I never draw into the combos at the same time, so I didn't like it. This one, I tried using Copy Plant as means to copy the level of any plant type monster on the field, and you can make Xyz. So you can make something like Strike Bouncer or number 11 Big Eye when you copy Gigaplant or copy Fallen Angel Roses. So yeah. Then this one had Gores and one Debris and just some other random stuff like that. This was when I was trying out the Rose Archer, so that was kind of cool. And then actually at the time I was also trying Queen Angel Roses. I didn't like her as much in this deck, but I may put her back in later if I just want to have a little bit of fun. But yeah, Rose Archer was actually pretty decent. And then, believe it or not, this is the actual deck profile. Well, this was one that I was using, well, off screen at least, where I was playing the E-Telly engine and stuff like that. And, you know, it pretty much did the same thing, but there were times where I would draw all my Psychics and the E-Tellys are dead. And that's why I cut that idea entirely. And then this, well, 9.5, this is the deck that I was showing you guys just moments ago. The ones that I've been talking about the whole time. So, with that being said though, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile, and these are just other cards that I tried running and stuff like that, and some of them I may consider putting back in the deck, but you can at least get a general idea on what I was thinking of. But I will explain one of these cards, Line Monster K-Horse, I mean. It's kind of weird. This is one of those cards that you probably didn't even know about. Well, he's a level 3 Beast Warrior, 800 attack, 400 defense, and he has 800 attack, 400 defense. When this card is normal summoned, target one set card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone. Look at that target, and if it is a trap card, destroy it. Otherwise, return it to its original position. When you destroy a trap card this way, you can activate the following effect. Special summon one level 3 Earth monster from your hand and face up defense. So, basically, the idea around this guy is use this effect, blow up a set trap card, and then special summon a level 3 Earth. It sounds useful in theory because most people are going to be setting traps. But not every deck sets traps. I mean, there's quick ways too, so you have to be careful of that. But the idea is, he's a Beast Warrior, so you could search him out with Tinky, and you can maybe run like a bear or something like that. I don't know. And the idea is, since the other monsters like Dandelion, Junk Forward, Spell Striker, Hedge Guard, like they're level 3 Earths, the idea is to blow up a back row, and then, like if they have one back row, you blow it up, and then you special summon a level 3 Earth, and then go for a Tree Spirit. So that was kind of the idea. And then the Psychic Engine's right up here, so yeah, there's some other weird stuff like Black Garden. I was thinking of running something like a Black Garden deck with Talaya Plant, with Talaya Plants, where I just get like my big plant boss monsters and then control with Black Garden. I don't know how that would work out. Brave Storm, because you can kind of combo it with this card actually, because you can destroy one of your own plant type monsters, draw a card, and then use her effect after you resolve the second draw if you draw another plant type monster. And then this would work with the field spell and whatnot, because you're going to have a lot of Rose tokens out. So yeah, kind of weird and long-winded and pretty long, but again, I went through the quick deck profile, and then the rest will be analysis and combos. So yeah, if you guys like this for some reason, if you want to try it out, then you know, you could do that if you want. I don't know why you would, but it's up to you. This is just like a really fun deck that I played, and honestly, that's what I expect it to be. Like lots of fun, maybe competitive, but again, I don't think it will be that competitive unless someone actually takes a deck like this and makes it competitive somehow. You know, congrats to the guy for making it happen, but you know, I just played it for fun, and it's been a lot of fun, and I thank everybody for giving me the positive feedback and whatnot. So yeah, and that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Wait, hold on. There's actually one more thing I gotta talk about. I gotta talk about that combo with Shooting Star Dragon. Basically, what you want to do is, well, you probably saw it in one of my videos, but this is what I did. Here's a simple variation of it. You can do stuff like this: Junk Board and Lone Fire Blossom. Special summon Junk Board, summon out Lone Fire, tribute the Lone Fire, get out Dandelion from your deck. Then you overlay these two for a Tree Spirit, activate her effect, detach the Dandelion, get Lone Fire back, get 2 fluff tokens, use Lone Fire's effect, tribute Tree Spirit, summon Spore from your deck. So you need Spore in your deck to do this. So if you need to run 2 just to do this, be my guest, you can do that. Then tune the Spore and one of the fluff tokens to make Formula Synchron, draw a card, then you banish Dandelion or Hedge Guard if it's in the graveyard. With Spore, bring it back as a level 4, And then you tune it with Lone Fire Blossom, which is level 3, and the last flip token, which is level 1, to make Stardust Dragon. And then you can tune Forming the Synchron and Stardust Dragon into Shooting Star Dragon on your turn or during your opponent's main phase due to Forming the Synchron's effect. There you go. That's the combo. So for now, this is where I say goodbye for real this time. So peace out, guys.